Good afternoon. Welcome to the Monday, February 9th, 2026 meeting of the Riverfront Advisory Committee. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'd open the floor to any public comment.
Tentatively, April 6th at 7 o'clock in the auditorium in this building, the Historical Society and I are going to do a presentation on the weir.
Do you know what day of the week April 6th is?
What's that?
Do you know what day of the week April 6th is?
It's Monday.
It's a Monday.
Jerry, what time?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Thank you.
I'm sorry, where? Downstairs.
I would like to do something in 2027, middle of May to middle of June, when the weir is actually fishing down at the Shanda Park also.
Thank
Are
you.
you giving the presentation? Is that-
Yes,
Okay. 7 o'clock downstairs here.
yes. Unless they change the date on us again.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. So yeah, Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m. Presentation on the weir from Mr. Collins and the Historical Society. You said in the auditorium. Auditorium. Thank you. Item number 3, review and approval of the minutes from last meeting on January 12th. Having just read them 5 minutes ago, I think they look excellent.
Yep.
So,
I'll make a
Make-
motion to approve the minutes of January 12th.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So regular business. I think our top item today, continuing over from a discussion started at the January meeting, is to discuss any proposed modifications that we would like to put forward via town council resolution to potentially change some minor things in the charter of this committee. So a couple things, in general that we're talking about. One of the main, I guess, precipitating events of this is potentially expanding this body from 5 members to 7 members, like we talked about last month. But, with that action being taken, now is also a good time to think and debate a little bit, discuss who we might want those other 2 spots to be, and if there's any other changes we want to make to the charter at this time. So I do want to look at you one time, because I think you had said you had helped the Energy, Environment and Energy Committee with potentially doing something similar, with bringing language up to the council. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I have done that before, and I do have one ready to go, but the question was, I think, my understanding, right, that we weren't gonna take somebody from the planning board, right? We were gonna do the Conservation Commission and basically 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 people.
Yeah,
And
so
one other person, okay, so in 5, basically, 1 from the Conservation Commission, 1 from the Town Council, and the other 5 from the membership of the town, right?
the only other thing I would consider, and let's discuss who else we might want, but I think there's I'm gonna get this wrong. I'm gonna look to our town friends here. There's like a transportation subcommittee. Is that?
They're not a permanent one.
Yeah, they're like you.
Okay.
Permanent.
All right. So if they're not a permanent body, then that's not a good fit. Okay. All right.
But that could change in the future as well.
Okay. Then the thought process being, if we have, other board or other member committee, that it just keeps other bodies in the town, I guess, more coordinated amongst one another. But if they're not a standing committee, does anyone feel strongly about making a different membership?
I'm just trying to go back to the conversation about the planning board. I think I made the comment, planning boards a lot of times has a pretty big workload.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to anybody from the planning board being on Riverfront committee as a liaison. If somebody said that's something that interests me, I just am leery of.
Yeah. Putting something else on their plate, because they
Yeah.
seem to be a representative on everything.
Yeah. So that's the only point I was coming from there. But we should have 7 members anyway, so if it's not going to be somebody from the planning board, it would be at large, I would imagine. Conservation town council and 5 members, or, you know, like I said, if there's somebody from planning board that said I wanted to do that. Great.
Okay, so we agreed, one from town council, one from conservation commission, and 5 members at large. Okay.
Well, someone else feels otherwise, that seems to be the way to go.
Do we have a copy of the Riverfront charge, our mission statement?
It's
Is that-
on the town
Okay,
website,
thank you.
and I think I had passed that around last time, or said something like that.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. It's only like a couple sentences, I think.
Okay.
What, my thought was that we would update that, but at the last meeting, we kind of said no,
It-
that it
it-
was fine.
Yeah,
Okay, either way.
yeah.
And so the third part to that is, we do want to ask the town council to make us a permanent standing committee versus, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna be 2 separate resolutions or one. Would you know? Have you talked to
Don't
Steve
hold,
at all about
don't hold,
that?
no, don't hold him to this. I imagine it's one, because you would, within that resolution, you could, say, redefine, if you wanted to, what your charges are and whatnot, so
Okay.
I think you do it in one. You don't need to do 2.
Okay, have you talked to Steve about it? Yeah, thank you.
Not yet, because I don't think we've decided collectively.
Okay. Yeah, I would continue. I think we discussed this last time. There seemed to be agreement, but to drop the ad hoc, I think it signals an intention that this committee is going to exist at least for the rest of the decade as we try to advance some of these things. So yeah, within that resolution, also would vote to drop that. I do think we kind of talked around that we weren't going to modify the actual language
Right.
of the charter resolution last time, but does everyone still feel the same?
Yeah, it felt like the basic conclusion was, we know what we have ahead of us, kind of the things we're working on. And it was sort of what we talked about putting in our goal, you know, about working on a comprehensive plan as the riverfront changes down there. And having it broad and not too specific gives us, you know, we're not talking about somewhere else, we're talking about that area. And it pretty well laid out a lot of the things that are gonna be coming
Mhm.
along that, so I like it as it is.
Okay. Do you want to just at some point in the next meeting kind of just draft that, formalize?
Yes, I
those
have
two
the draft
edits?
of changing the membership. I sent a note to Steve and a note to him saying, do we need 1 or 2 resolutions? I have not heard back from him, but now that, you know, I'm copacetic of what we're gonna do,
Sure.
I'll follow up with Steve.
Okay.
And as soon as he tells me what, I'll pass it on to the rest of the group here.
That sounds great. That sounds great. So yeah, I guess technically I would move into one of the at-large spots. So we would look to Concom to appoint 1 person, and then there would be effectively an open location or an open appointment if somebody else wanted to join from the community. Okay.
Just make sure you maneuver that without vacating the chair.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to think about that piece. Do I need to get reappointed by town council? Okay. I don't know if that can just be an agenda item at some point.
Well, you'll have to
Same
fill
thing.
out the form and send
I
the
have to
form
fill out
over
the
to
form
Wendy.
again, don't I?
Okay.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. 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 So just, well, I guess, are we set? Do people feel comfortable with those? Do we need any more discussion, or are we ready to close that?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll work through the administrative items, but we'll kind of formally put together a resolution to change the makeup of the committee, expand it to 7 seats, drop the ad hoc from the committee name, and then I have some homework to do to fill out the appointment form and also get that in the consideration to get reappointed to the committee. Okay. Moving on to item 4B, again, I guess just a general reminder of why we're doing this, and that this is kind of stemming from our presentation to Conservation Commission when Bart and I had gone there. The commission was receptive to the idea of handing over stewardship of the park. One thing they had asked for was kind of continue to having a presence from Concom on the committee, and that's kind of what spurred this whole discussion, since again I'm still technically their rep but am not seated on their committee anymore. They have drafted a resolution for the town council to formally make that change. My understanding is it's pretty far along, and will be voted on at their meeting in March. They have a meeting this week, but I think they already know 3 or 4 different people aren't going to be there. So they've postponed their vote to March, which I think is March 12th, that they would vote to put that to town council.
We don't need another vote about our changes for it to go to we don't have to make a vote or do anything else for it to go to the town council at this point, for us. In some sense, it would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense to make it a formal vote, right? So
Yeah. It would seem to be efficient for what the town council's time, if there was a way for both resolutions to come before them at the same time. Isn't required, but it wouldn't hurt anything. You think, Joe?
No, I don't think. Wouldn't they do what they do?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that does make the difference. Do we want to put an actual formal vote to move that in?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's required, but it might be a good form of substance.
If it's not
talked and agreed.
needed, and we do it, there's nothing
Yeah.
bad happens. If it's needed and we lose another month, I just get it done.
Yeah. Someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion for that.
Second? Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. No, I think that makes sense. Just make sure it's formalized. Does anyone have any, final questions or anything that they're curious about with the Conservation Commission resolution? Is there anything anyone wants to hear more on? I know we talked about it a decent bit last time, but no is okay, so. I have on here, again, just that, the PTA thing, the PTA Unplugged event for March 7th that we talked about, again, for a couple minutes at the end of the last thing. I don't think anything is really required of us. I'm just going to go and stand there for like an hour and a half, and if there's anyone there and they want to talk about it, go for it.
That sounds good.
So I will passively attend that event.
For that.
Yeah.
Is there a time for that when it's running?
There is. We have been assigned a time slot of which
Okay.
I have promptly forgotten. I
Okay.
think it is 12 or 1, but I can
Okay.
follow up with the group.
Okay.
There's a couple things through town, but that seemed to be the lowest hanging fruit way to have a little passive involvement, maybe
Mhm.
get to talk to a couple people about some of the upcoming warrant articles and some of the things the town's talking about down there.
When's the vote on the warrant articles?
It would be March 10th, correct? Tuesday, March 10th. Okay.
I do have something I want to bring up. At our last meeting, Betsy brought up the comment that was in the town newsletter about an additional committee. And I sent a note over to Steve saying, you know, we really don't need that additional committee. You got the, you know, you have
Yeah,
us.
could be us.
And his response was, well, they do want to have a separate committee to get some information. I don't know, but maybe Bart could talk to that, what's happening with that?
Yeah, something that we'd have to work out a little more. It's still in its nascent stages, but I guess the thought process is it might be more of like a neighborhood community or something like that. Again, we have to flesh out the details on that, so I don't have too much to report on that, but I'll work with the town manager on what that would look like, along with other staff members. So.
Yeah, I just wonder, you know, I mentioned that it seems like it would be a good, as we're, maybe not, to me, it's nothing, I'm almost at a point now, I want to see how the vote has a lot to do, right, on March 10th?
Yes.
Those bond articles have a lot to do with, so I'm hopeful. I mean, it seemed like it wasn't much opposition at the deliberative session, so
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah, hopeful. Yeah, I think we've done a good job trying to communicate what we're trying to accomplish and the rationale for it, and try to answer any questions that folks have had so far. So I think we made a good effort on that. We still have a couple more things that the town is developing for information for the voters. So, but in regards to the other committee, not much details or discussions have been made. So we'll have an update for you in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my thought. Do you think you're going to get much out of it that wasn't covered by the charrette? I think the charrette covered a lot.
I see this more. This is the arc of time. This is going to be a long project, if you will, because
Yeah, definitely.
so I think and people are going to shift in and out of the community, especially direct stakeholders. But I think it has merit and value to have some sort of neighborhood or another entity to have these discussions. So again, how it'll play out, and it could be complementary to this as well. So
I guess what I was wondering,
Marty.
and going back to, is there, I've mentioned it seems like part of what we could be doing as some of these, we're waiting for some of the projects that, that the town is talking about, a lot of infrastructure programs, a lot of grants and, H&H and all of this stuff. And I didn't know if that broader committee is a good, and does any of this dovetail with trying to get broader community input about what people want? Or do we need that? We've got the
Yeah.
charrette, like Joe said, maybe that's enough.
Maybe, I think you always want to continue to make sure you're on base with decisions before you make decisions. The charrette was done in 24. That's a moment in time. So we want to make sure that, there's probably underlying projects that we all agree upon are important, like collecting baseline data, doing the H&H study, making sure all that's being done, prior to any redevelopment, if you will, plans, or larger decisions that cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, so we want to make sure that all stakeholders are continued to be heard and brought into this process, and maybe that's the perfect forum to do that. So, yeah. So, in my opinion, you can never have enough input, because leaving voices out can only lead to larger problems down the road. So, so doing your best to create opportunities for public input, because it is ultimately it's public funds paying for all this. So,
Yeah.
they need. I think their voices are important. So maybe that's a good forum to have, a good body to have those discussions. Again, how can we both, may think of this way, how can we be most efficient, is this the body to have all the public info come in and, or can the Riverfront committee be useful in other ways, whereas this other committee could be useful in whatever. So maybe it's more having those dialogues, those conversations. So again, we'll have to hammer out the details and how that'll look like, but I see merit in it.
Yeah, well, thanks for the follow-up on reaching out about that, and for the explanation, Bart. So a couple other things just to make sure our information's current. Are we calling this thing the Comprehensive Riverfront Development Plan? Is that it? I don't know why I can't remember this.
It's in the minutes.
Don't help. The Riverfront Specific Master Plan. Downtown. Something.
Rip that wording out of somewhere.
It
I
says,
don't
no, development of a comprehensive riverfront development plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Bart's line.
That's me. That was my child.
Okay.
So, my brainchild. I think the idea was, okay, what are we working on now? And I think at that discussion was, do we develop? Yeah, we have a master plan, 10,000-foot view of what we looking to accomplish in the riverfront. Now, the details. How do we get there? So that this will be another plan to understand exactly what we want. So that's what I meant by that.
Is there like a timeline, a schedule for that?
I think step one is March 10th. See what happens. If the vote passes, I have Lindsay kind of speak to this. Then we would have an opportunity to collect baseline data for the area. And then over that year, this coming year, that would be done. And then from there, we can have a conversation of what do we do next with that data. And then maybe, so I don't know if you want to, did I misspeak at all? Great. So
generally the
Yeah.
plan would be to kind of run it like concurrently with those efforts, provided that they pass a warrant to gain any efficiency that can be gained from that.
right, we're going to need the data no matter what. So having that, and then as for the, I mean, that can be, yeah, exactly. So that's a parallel track, and then I think this body would need to start kind of figuring out, all right, what do we want to do after we have that data? So I think you have that conversation now. Not necessarily what's it going to look like, but start prioritizing potential projects for when that data is available. Where do we go from there? And I don't know if that means actually, doing another document saying this is the phasing plan, this is where we're going, or if it's more kind of more organic. So I think that's something that you all need to decide, because if it is more of a phasing plan, then maybe we need more help with that, more money for a plan. So
That's kind of what I was just thinking. So,
Yeah.
Obviously I think it would be great if everyone and their brother could provide input on it, but there's obviously a cost to the town for that. Has there been any, thought on how you guys would want to handle that with a third-party consultant? Like, do you want to keep the
Well, we do
the
have-
group small? Do you
Yeah,
want to open it up?
we have
more?
worked with a third party. As
Yeah. So the There's a couple steps that we're going through. So first we have the purchase of the 11 Crate Street property. We're working through the lot line adjustment. That's step one. We want to get through that, have a definition of where that lot line is going to be and what's part of the park. Or tangentially, we also have a warrant article put to the voters in March to authorize borrowing clean water SRF funds, a stormwater planning project that would have 100% principal forgiveness, so that we could proceed with the baseline data, information gathering, and the H&H analysis piece of it. Likely, we would partner with one of the engineering firms that we have on-call contracts with to do water resources work. They also have experience with different types of recreational and waterfront parks and properties. So we will be working on a scope of work for that baseline data, and can also, at the same time, be discussing with them how we parlay that into development of this comprehensive plan. So it would likely be the same consultant that we can work with on both of those efforts and move those things forward in tandem, so that they dovetail nicely together. And that would kind of get us through this coming year. The hope would be that we could potentially have a scope of work and estimate for development of that plan before we get to budget season this year, because we'll be underway in getting the planning project going and having an understanding of what we're looking at. So yeah, my hope is that we have that to work into next year's budget and can move forward with that and keep the momentum building. Does that answer your?
Can you just give maybe a broad idea of what the scope would actually cover? Does it cover like Moonlight Brook and?
That's part of the discussion. I mean, it certainly would cover the portion of Moonlight Brook that is the channel that's within Shanda Park. So from the pipe outlet out, it probably wouldn't incorporate watershed management components within the upper portions of Moonlight Brook, but the channel stabilization and the culverts at the outlet and stuff like that, yes.
Can you do one without the other, or?
Yes, you can, depending on what activities you intend to do and what you're looking at. The baseline data and the H&H will give us an understanding of what can be done there and modifications that can take place without adjustments in the upper watershed.
Is the sort of determining what the source of the fecal contamination, that's upper watershed, isn't
That's
it?
upper watershed, and that's a separate, yeah.
So that's a different plan? Or
Sort of, yes. Different scope of work and different focus. With the Shanda Park area, it's more about how to modify and manage the infrastructure that's in the vicinity of Shanda Park.
Yeah.
The flow that's contributing for addressing bacteria sources and removing bacteria sources will likely not significantly adjust the volume of flow that's coming into the channel, so wouldn't necessarily have significant impact on the infrastructure that's there, unless we're talking about a living shoreline, in which case then we'll have some different conversations. But a lot of that will be worked out as we get through some of the planning and analysis.
But that's not in this initial warrant, doesn't include the ability to move forward with that work on finding that.
Right.
That's right.
It includes the survey and geotechnical exploration and the H&H analysis for the flow at the culverts, but not any of the upper watershed portion and bacteria. Those are can be addressed through separate projects.
Okay. Can I add one more thing on that? The other thing that was, I asked, going way back to the very beginning, I asked if we had we ever had to have the, I don't know if this is the right term, but hydrologic analysis, whether there's still risk of flooding out of Moonlight Brook, because we've made a lot of changes. And Steve at that time told me, no, that has never been done. Is that something that needs to be done somewhere in this process? Do we, maybe we don't, or do we?
That There was a drainage study that was done many years ago, kind of immediately after that.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of infrastructure improvements that have taken place since then. So the work that would be part of this warrant article planning project is the analysis that would incorporate what kind of adjustments and modifications have been made in the watershed that impact the contributing flow.
So
So
sort of an
it-
update to the old analysis.
Yeah, and it's assumed that it will be comprehensive enough to give us an understanding of current flows and future projections, but not as granular detail as what was done previously, because that was really trying to understand how everything functioned during that extreme event.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Lindsay, could you remind me, H&H is an acronym for?
Yeah, sorry, I live in acronyms.
That's all right, I'm thinking medical.
Hydrologic and hydraulic.
I'm sorry?
Hydrologic and hydraulic
Okay.
study. And that's, the hydrologic study is how the water moves across the landscape. Hydraulic is how it moves through the channels and pipes and systems. So they go hand in hand. You figure out how much flow is coming off the landscape, and then how is it moving through the channels.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that all sounds good. Obviously, it makes sense with some of the synergy that maybe having one consultant kind of do a lot of that related work might help the town out. So, obviously, no questions on that.
No, just related, a lot of this then, does it make sense, as we're scheduled now, I think we'd be meeting the day before the vote. Does it make sense to have that, you know, it'd be easier to kind of discuss some of this if we're,
I would kind of agree. Let's put the pin in that for like 5 minutes.
Sure.
Is there any other, I guess, updates from town staff? Anything we can help on? I mean, we kind of already talked on some of the stuff like the Creighton Street business, the comprehensive riverfront plan. Obviously, we'll do another little plug for the March warrant.
Nothing definitive yet, but we are potentially working with DES on a project on the riverfront. We won't go into too much detail because we still have to work some things out. But it's related to kind of your point, flood risk to assets. So so we'll have more information later on that. In the next couple weeks, so I can email you all an update on that, and then we can discuss it whenever the next meeting may be.
I'm sorry, is this the resilient thing you're talking about, the resilient zone, or is that something different?
Something different, yeah.
Okay.
So that, so update on that. We, again, Lindsay and I are still working on that, but we are planning to have that all for you in the next couple months. So I'll try to shoot. If you guys meet in April or later in March, we'll try to have something for you then.
Okay. Thank you. So now, moving to that. Yeah, so with the timing of warrant on the 10th, with the Conservation Commission potentially, moving their resolution next month, with potentially having town council consider our own resolution, in a couple weeks' time. I think I would generally propose we just don't meet in March and we meet in April. But open to thought or suggestion.
I was going to be away in March, no matter which of those dates.
There you go.
April 13th.
Yeah. So that would be April 13th.
That's what pops up on the formula. That's the second Monday.
Yep. So, April 13th. I mean, seems fine.
School vacations are later.
It's the week of the 27th in New
Okay.
Hampshire. Mass is 20th. Hampshire's 27th. So yeah, I don't know, 13th.
13th?
Yeah, I think that gives a little time for the dust to settle from some of this stuff, see what the outcome of, the warrants. We've talked obviously a little bit about the, the stormwater warrant, but there's also, an item on there, a separate warrant for, effectively wastewater planning for the same thing. That would be 100% reimbursable loan or really no cost to the town, and that would be for, Sean and the wastewater folks to look at their infrastructure and do some planning activities, including the main gravity feed in Shanda Park and the Creighton Street pump station. So, obviously another major related effort to a lot of what we've been talking about. So I think that makes sense. Let the warrants pass, let Conservation Commission advance its resolution, see the outcome of our resolutions, and then we'll have a lot more to discuss in April.
Do you send the notes to Wendy?
Yeah, I can let Wendy know about that. So I'll notify her that we're not meeting on March 9th. And she can help me get my reappointment form at the same time. I'll do her. I don't really have anything else that I had marked for discussion. Anything else we wanted to bring up?
I'll just mention it just as a follow-up, because I wouldn't remember, but I saw it in the minute on the...
Oh, the Epping transfer station.
Yeah, the most interesting thing about that was that we Conservation Committee did write a letter. Ellen and Bart and I met and, talked about that, and that was the quickest thing we could do. But at the time it came to my attention from CLF, it turns out that, nobody in Newfields knew about this.
Yeah.
A whole lot of people that were close were unaware. They already have a PCB permit there. That happened before.
Okay.
And it is, the letters, basically it comes down to, is this real, in terms of the master solid waste plan for the state of New Hampshire, it's not one of the identified needs to have a big expansion in terms of the number of transfer stations. There's a lot of transfer stations. This is another commercial one. Process a lot of waste from Massachusetts, among other things. But it's nearly on the banks of a Class A river. The Piscassic is, that's an important area, and it's sort of fairly close to Newfield's water intakes. It's close to, not too far from Newmarket's wells in that whole Piscassic Greenway. So there were a lot of letters that came in through, once people became aware of it. Okay. Letters were generated from Durham, Newmarket, Newfields, Exeter, and I think a couple of others, and a couple of organizations came letters. So there was a fair amount of feedback generated in a short period of time.
Do you know if there's like a action date, or I guess what is the next step? Is it just they're soliciting impacts or information, and there's going to be like a vote or decision point?
I might know more next time I've seen some letters since then. There was some people were sort of working it and going to the governor's council or whatever at the state level. There were people that were questioning, did this need to have sort of a process that engaged surrounding towns more.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of needed to be a wider discussion, and I'm not sure if that's likely to happen as a result of all the feedback they're getting, but I was hopeful for that.
Gotcha. I appreciate the update. Obviously, it seems like a lot of people kind of spent some time with it once they heard more. So,
Yes.
Any other related topics, discussion items? Motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone.